It wasn't supposed to end like this. Not with silence, not with hesitation, not with a ceasefire that feels incomplete. Because the plan was different. Fast pressure, decisive strikes, a controlled outcome. That was the expectation. But then something changed. The momentum slowed, the objectives blurred, and suddenly, the war didn't end with victory, it paused. And when a war pauses without resolution, it raises a dangerous question. Did the plan fail? Or did reality refuse to follow it? Because what you're seeing right now isn't just a ceasefire, it's a signal that something didn't go exactly as expected at the beginning. Everything pointed toward control. Precision strikes hit key targets. Military infrastructure degraded. Pressure applied at a scale designed to overwhelm. On the surface, it worked. It looked effective. It looked like dominance. But war isn't measured in moments. It's measured in outcomes. And the outcome, Iran didn't collapse. The system held. Not perfectly, not without damage, but enough. Enough to continue, enough to respond, enough to survive. And that's where the plan starts to crack. Because if your strategy is built on rapid change, and change doesn't come, you don't just lose momentum, you lose clarity. What's the next step? Escalate further, risk wider conflict, or pull back? Manage the situation, contain instead of control? That's the dilemma. And dilemmas don't appear in successful plans. They appear when assumptions break. The assumption was speed. The reality became resistance. The assumption was pressure would force submission. The reality was pressure created endurance, and endurance changes everything. Because now, this isn't a war you can finish quickly, it's one you have to sustain. And sustaining a war is more difficult than starting one, financially, politically, strategically, because every additional day costs more, not just in resources, but in focus. Attention shifts, allies question, priorities compete, and that's where the United States had to make a decision, not about winning, but about cost. How much longer? How much further? How much risk is acceptable? Because this war doesn't exist in isolation, it exists inside a global system. Energy markets react. Oil routes become unstable, prices fluctuate. Other regions demand attention, other threats don't disappear. So continuing at full intensity comes with trade-offs, real ones. And at some point, those trade-offs outweigh the benefits. That's when strategy shifts. Not because the war is won, but because the cost of continuing starts to exceed the value of escalation. That's what a ceasefire often represents. Not resolution, but recalibration, a step back. Not to end the conflict, but to rethink it. Because what worked at the beginning is no longer enough. Now here's the uncomfortable truth. The plan didn't completely fail, but it didn't fully succeed either. It achieved damage, but not transformation. It created pressure, but not control. It demonstrated power, but didn't reshape the system. And that middle ground is the hardest place to operate from, because you're not clearly winning, but you're not losing either. You're stuck in between, and in between is unstable, because it forces decisions without clear outcomes. Do you escalate and risk expansion? Do you pause and risk losing momentum? Do you redefine objectives and admit the original ones weren't realistic? Every option has consequences. Every move reveals something, and none of them offer certainty. That's why the ceasefire matters. Not because it ends the war, but because it exposes the limits of the plan. It shows that force alone didn't deliver the expected result. It shows that the system being targeted was more resilient than predicted. And it shows that modern wars don't always follow clean timelines. They stretch, they adapt, they become harder to control. And once that happens, you're no longer executing a plan, you're managing a situation. And managing is different from winning. Managing means reacting, adjusting, containing. It's slower, less decisive, more complex. And complexity is where advantage fades, because the more variables involved, the harder it is to maintain control. That's the phase this war has entered. Not decisive, not resolved, but evolving. And evolution creates uncertainty. Because now, the next phase depends on adaptation, not original strategy. Who adjusts faster? Who redefines their objectives more effectively? Who uses this pause better? Because a ceasefire isn't neutral, it's an opportunity to reposition, to prepare, and to rethink, and the side that uses it best shapes what comes next. So did America's war plan fail? Not completely, but not enough to call it a success. It was built for a different outcome, a faster one, a clearer one, a more controlled one, and this war didn't follow that script. So now, the question isn't what the plan was, it's what the plan becomes. Because the first phase is over, and the second phase is always more complex, less predictable, more revealing, because that's where real strategy begins. After assumptions break, after momentum slows, after reality sets in. And right now, that's exactly where we are. Not at the end, not even close. At a turning point, where the next move matters more than the first. If this changed your perspective, subscribe, because the next video might change your life.